It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Mikel, and thanks a lot for joining us. It's 25 days since the beginning of the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari, going on a month. A lot of us had expectations that this time would be different with regards to forming a government and naming a cabinet. We're 25 days in, way shorter than the 6 months which we had in 2015. So we're still hopeful that things would take shape. I don't know if it's going to happen in June. We have a few days left before June is over. But I mean, we're looking forward to a government being formed as soon as possible so that we can hit the ground running with the second term. Looking forward to a robust cabinet. A lot of Nigerians were not very excited with the last 4 years and sort of the results that came with the cabinet that was given to us at the time. So hopefully Mr. President will do things better this time. Fingers crossed. But this last week has been dominated by football news, both from the women and men. The Super Falcons at the World Cup got a lifeline and made it to the second round of the World Cup for the first time in 20 years. So it was big news. But unfortunately, we got to play one of the giants in the game, Germany. We didn't make it past them, unfortunately. Yesterday, we were beaten 3-0. But the Super Eagles have started their campaign at the African Cup of Nations, the very first one holding in the months of June and July. And we're going to be talking about that. I have here with me Biola Kazim, a friend of the house. Thanks for being here today.
Good to be here. Hi.
Before we get to the Super Eagles now, let's talk about the Falcons very quickly now. A lot of Nigerians were, I don't even want to say cautiously optimistic. A lot of us were trying to be delusional, let's be honest.
Versus
about the
Germany?
fact that, with Germany, hopeful that maybe we might pick a result. Did you think the result was fair?
Well, I mean, I actually thought the girls gave a good account of themselves. First 20 minutes, they were in the game. Obviously, going forward, which was a problem we've had all tournament, we couldn't really transition well from, defense to attack. Our attacks were breaking down. There was a bit of isolation from our attack, with our midfield. So we had all of those structural problems, but the girls were in the game. But unfortunately, once the Germans got ahead, that was when you are in games like that where you are looking for an upset, you are hoping that you can get something. The last thing you need to do is to consider a goal, particularly so early in the game.
How much of a problem was it that, we had one of our tallies women, Rita Chikwelu, I believe, who was out because of 2 yellow cards. Shwala was on the bench as well. Was it a hamstring or was it a hamstring?
It was a hamstring.
So how much did that play into sort of the psyche of the girls, you think?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell. Football is like I said to people, is a strange sport. Sometimes they're on the pitch and you get battered. Sometimes they're not on the pitch and you get a result. I mean, there are so many references to star players not being in the team and then you going on to win. But again, you must say that the Falcons is a team that's a bit short of star quality. And so in games like that, you will want all of the help, that you can have. And as I said, obviously, one of the top female players in the whole world, will have been good to have her on the pitch. I do not think that will have been enough to stymie the Germans. The Germans are storied, at the female World Cup. They are so organized. You saw them. I was making a joke with my friend that I think that they will have battered our under 20 male team that was at the World Cup in Poland. They were so
teams that will batter some male teams.
They were really strong.
Very quickly now before we go to the Super Eagles. Why does there seems to be a serious gulf, between the Americas? Even Canada is doing so well now. We have Canada, USA, and Brazil on that end. In Europe, there's about 3-4 very solid teams as well. There's Germany, there's England now, who's doing amazingly. Then in Asia, you have 1 or 2 as well. Why is that the gulf between all of these teams and Africa seems to be so wide? I mean, once in a while, you get the occasional draw on the 1-0s, but every time we're going as underdogs.
To be honest with you, it's system and structure. So I've seen 7-8-year-olds on training grounds in America play with shape and structure in a way that even male teams can never find. Their passing was pristine, their organization, and these were 8-9-year-old girls. And so when you start from that age, by the time you get to competitive age, which is 14, 15, you get into the under 17 team, these girls have had training of 10 years. By the time they get into competition, nothing has changed. They've been training all their lives. They've been structured. They've had discipline. They know teamwork. They know when to pass. They know how to control. They know all of these things. More often than not in Africa, the girls stumble into it. There really isn't any structure till they get into their teens. And even structure is in quotes here, Ibuka. You understand what I mean? Over there, you have specialist coaches for different age groups. It's system and structure. I say to people that when you see the gulf in the system and structure that produces athletes from Western countries, and you see the system that produces athletes in Africa, it's a miracle that we're even on the same pitch competing at all. It's a miracle that we're even anywhere close. It's a testament to our talent and our spirit that we can even go into competitions like that and try, to even perform. The gulf is really system and structure, the kind of training they receive for years and years and years before our own people accidentally stumble into the sport, and they really don't have a structure, they don't have organization, they don't have scheduled training, they don't have organized training, they don't have top level training, and somehow you roll them into green, white, green, put them out on the pitch and expect that they beat everybody. It simply wouldn't happen. It might happen once or twice, it might happen as exceptions, but it will never be the norm.
Okay, talking of Africa, now let's switch our conversation now to the African Cup of Nations. Like I said, the very first time he was holding in the summer, quote unquote, because I don't know that we'll have the summer here, and which is also a part of the conversation because there's been a talk about, you know, it rains a lot in Africa at this time of the year, but Africa actually has very diverse weather.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've seen people talking about
people are complaining about the heat in Egypt.
Down in South Africa, they were in minus weather, I hear, apparently, which could have also been the hosts because they also came close to hosting it as well. So I don't think the weather is a conversation. But with regards to Egypt now, we had a player who collapsed, we did hear, Kalu. How much of that is going to be an issue going forward with the timing of the Nations Cup this time?
Well, I think it's like everything. When change happens, we're all resistant. We're coming up with all of the excuses. Some of them, just because a lot of people are saying it, then it becomes logical, so to speak. But the reality of the matter, like you said as well, is that Africa is not one country. Africa is a continent of different countries, different weathers. I think that obviously makes sense in the way football has evolved over the past decade or 15 years that you play your major continental tournament in the summer, where we're having situations year on year or tournament on tournament where some of the best players can't come. When they do come, they have their eyes, you know, at the back of their heads, hoping that somebody doesn't take their place. You have club chairmen and coaches, you know, threatening players. You know, the impact was huge. So I do think that it was just a commonsensical decision to play African Nations Cup in the summer. Like I said, the first one or two might get a little bit testy. We might have, you know, negative reports. People, like I said, it's change. It will take some time. But after 2-3 episodes, people will even forget that he ever held in January, February. I mean, or January, February sometimes. So that's what it is. I think that it just made perfect sense. You get all of your best players. They have finished their European club commitments. They're all focused on the African Championship, just like the South Americans are focused on Copa America. The Europeans, you know, in every 4 years in June, they're focused.
Is going
absolutely, the World Cup as well is in June. It's just normal because the African football landscape, it's not lucrative enough, it's not advanced enough to keep our best talents at home. So we're actually not even at liberty to decide.
We're dependent on those calendars.
Absolutely. I mean, you must know your position and you must play your position. And there's nothing wrong in allowing your players fulfill all of their commitments. They come back home and play qualifiers. They come back home and do all that they have to do. But to put a one-month tournament smack in the middle of the European season, for too long, we're being too hard on the players, I think.
Let's look at the tournament now. We've seen 3 games, I believe, actually 4 games.
4 games, actually,
from Group A and B now. How's it been? I mean, not that many goals. I think one game produced 4 goals. That's been about it. Altogether, it's been 1-0 here, 2-0 here, 1-0 here. Exciting?
Well, not really exciting. But, you know, tournaments are like this sometimes. A slow start, one game, somebody scores 3 goals and everything, you know, catches fire. I was hoping that Egypt versus Zimbabwe would start a lot better than it started. I was hoping that the Egyptians would rout them so that you can fire up the locals. They get really interested and engaged in the tournament.
That was a surprise result.
Well, sometimes as well. What I've learned from experience with, you know, first games, particularly with host teams, is that it's a potential banana skin. The players go in there with fear in their hearts not to lose, you know, and so you could see.
And Zimbabwe had nothing.
Absolutely, and they just sat back and they were going to defend and ride their luck. Ultimately, the quality of the Egyptians told. But I think that as the competition goes on, we have the best collection of African players at this tournament. Somebody's going to do something magical and it's going to take off. We saw in the game against Guinea and Madagascar a couple of good goals. We saw Linus pass, Odion Igalo's goal. So we are starting to see stardust. We are starting to see a bit of quality. I imagine that as the games, when you start playing the second round of games, teams have to be better because somebody like a Burundi who lost their first game, you lose your second game, you are going home, and so you need to up your game a little bit. So people start to react to, you know, your chances of staying, your chances of going, and naturally you play a bit better. The quality of the games will improve. You build momentum, and then we'll go on and have a fantastic tournament, hopefully.
How easy is it to drop Mikel, though? I mean, we've done it a lot. We did it with in 1994. Even with Stephen Keshi, he was captain, but he didn't play. We did it with Yobo a lot, where he would play the last 5 minutes, and it was like,
then he stopped playing later.
Just come and end, you know, just take your glory and go. Is Mikel there now?
It's difficult to say. It's difficult to say. But the reality of the matter is that I don't imagine a lot of people will be really, really shocked if Mikel is dropped. If you've been around the Super Eagles a lot, you realize that for the players, Mikel is a huge influence. They literally call him Bros. They are in awe of him. So he's the kind of guy that the players themselves will want on the pitch. But the reality as well, particularly in the performance yesterday, is that sometimes when you stay away from a team, and it's like all human relationships, the dependency breaks, and people have found a new way to live their lives or to operate without you. Remember, he didn't play for Nigeria for an entire year. He didn't play any of the qualifiers. And we managed to win all of our games, minus the game against South Africa, which we lost, in Uyo. In some way, you get the sense that maybe the players have moved on from him being in the team. Again, you don't want to assume a bit too much, but it's a bit difficult for you to go off for a year and then come and insert yourself right into tournament football. Tournament football is a bit different. It's 6 games, they're all intense, they all have consequences. You lose, you lose, you might be going home. That really is what it is. So it's a big decision for the manager to make, particularly because it started in the first game. He might have made things easier for himself if he didn't start Mikel in the first game and see how things went. If Mikel didn't start and we won the game, then it's only logical that he stays on the bench because the team success is more important. But when he starts and then you take him off, if you drop him in the next game, then automatically he's been dropped. And then you don't want things spiraling out of control. If we didn't have Keshi as coach in 2013, you made a fantastic point. The Yobo situation was threatening to spiral out of control. I mean, they were holding meetings, just trying to let him know that, look, Obabwena and Omero are playing really well. If they win, you are the captain, you get all of the glory. And like you said, Keshi himself had been in that position as a player, and now he was there as a coach. So he could, and obviously, he had the personality to say to Yobo that, look, you've got to wait. The team is playing well. If they're playing well, they're playing well for all of us. In Rohr's situation, it's a little bit different. So, like I said, I think he's made things a bit difficult for himself by starting Mikel. I would have gone with what we did all through the qualifiers in the first game, particularly because it's Burundi. I mean, it's not like we're playing Egypt or any of the big boys. Start the game without, Mikel. If you win, then logically, the winning team continues to play. If something goes wrong, you can throw him on. But starting him, then we took him off, then we looked a bit better when he went off. You don't want to go back, do you?
A lot of people have actually questioned Rohr's tactics and tactical ability. And I know I'm trying to put you on the hot seat there. And, there's this constant debate, is he really a technical coach? Do we really see tactical changes when he calls? I mean, yesterday he seemed to get his spot on with the changes he made and all of that. And you're talking about, these decisions that he needs to make now. How confident are you in him? Because the last time we played the tournament, we won.
Well, yes. Putting it that way.
Exactly.
When last time we played AFCON, not tournament. The World Cup was the tournament. Yes. Okay. To be honest, I think that, and this is what a lot of foreign coaches who come to coach in Nigeria get, we're a bit harsh on them. Yeah. We are, I think, constantly looking for their mistakes. I think that over the past 2-3 years that Rohr has been in charge, the results speak for themselves.
Pretty solid results.
Pretty solid. Look, I said to people, the team is not filled with stars. It's not filled with outstanding talent. So when you don't have all of those, the first thing you must be is to be difficult to beat, which is what we have been. We're going to Rohr. Since we lost to Argentina at the World Cup, I believe we lost only 1 game. We are a difficult team to beat. We might not be the most fantastic team, but under Rohr, we've won a couple of games with decent results. The World Cup group that we were in, we were with Algeria, we were with Zambia, I think we were with Cameroon as well. That was a group of death, and we navigated that group brilliantly. Oh, we went off to the World Cup. We lost our first game. We won against Iceland, and then we lost to Argentina. By no means was it embarrassing. We pushed Argentina really close. We came back. He tried to change things in the game against South Africa. Invited a lot of young boys. South Africa caught us napping. And he reacted. And we managed the rest of the qualifiers quite well. We've qualified for the World Cup easily. We've qualified for AFCON easily. We are seeing him starting to implement some changes in the team. We are seeing a bit of movement in players, coming in players, going out. I think it is hard for me to find one thing to criticize him for. But like I always say to people, if you really, really want to find something to criticize anybody for, you always will find. Yeah. But the reality of the matter is that his body of work is pretty solid over the period that he's been here. We've not been beaten dramatic or embarrassingly by anybody in the head-to-heads with the tough African teams. Algeria, we won here, we drew away. Against Cameroon, we battered. Look, I don't remember the last time we battered Cameroon in the football game. We literally battered Cameroon. Yeah, I mean, so in some way, it does look like because we're solid, because we get results, we are beginning to take it for granted, and then we start to yearn for more. It's always good to yearn for more, but we also must be realistic with what we have as quality. And like I said, we are seeing a manager. So Samuel Chukwueze has come into the team. We saw him try Onuachu the other day. He's constantly trying to. Olaino is playing at left back. Exactly. He's constantly trying to try new options, give new players opportunities. Where it doesn't work, he changes tack like we saw yesterday. I find it very difficult to criticize him. I'm not like his biggest fan, but his body of work, like I said, in total, is pretty solid.
You mentioned Olaino there, and I can't for the life of me get over the goal yesterday and the audacity of that pass and his entire game even.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
he was my man of the match.
This is the right fullback who played at left and just gave a solid performance. The last time we won the AFCON was in 2013. Three people basically defined our tournament. Mikel, Emenike to an extent, and of course Sunday Mba, who was clinical when it mattered. Who do you think the guys will be this year?
I think it might be Samuel Chukwueze. Yesterday was a bit more of, we saw a bit more of effervescence than effectiveness. But for the first time in a long time, we saw a super good player who every time he held the ball tried to beat his man. There was a run he made where he dribbled 4 people. Those are the kind of things that we'll be looking out for, edge of the seat stuff, and the young man is doing it. I think that he might go on to have a really, really huge tournament. I think also that if we're going to do really well in this tournament, it's important that Igalo continues to get the goals. He got one yesterday. Obviously, his confidence will come flushing back after he was dropped. But if I had to choose one, I just can't get past Samuel Chukwueze. I just like for the boy to get on the ball. I just always want the ball to be at his feet. Half the time he loses the ball, but you want a player who tries to take players on, who constantly wants to beat a man, who is always trying to do above the ordinary.
Very quickly now before we go. We've seen Egypt playing. Everybody thinks Senegal is going to take it. Do you think Nigeria can?
Yes, I think we can. Last time we were there, we won. So I think we can. I think this generation of players are very, very hungry. They've missed 2 AFCONs because we missed 2 tournaments, remember? And so for some of them, it actually might be their last chance. We do have Rohr as well, who I think is a stable manager. He doesn't try any fantastic stuff, but it does look like
and they seem comfortable with him. So
absolutely, the players absolutely love him. So yeah, we do have a chance. Egypt will be big favorites because they are the host team. But yes, if things are aligned, we don't pick up injuries, we build momentum, we should be there or thereabouts.
Okay, fingers crossed. We'll hold you to it.
Well, don't hold me to it.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Always good to be here.